Bonsoir tout le monde, nous comptons ensemble avec vous jeudi pour nous capables de présenter une autre interview sur Caribbean Television Network pour vous connaître déjà. Donc, l'objectif nous, c'est aider vous, donc informer vous, joindre ensemble avec toute personnalité donc, qui est capable d'aider nous, joindre plus bonne information. Jeudi, nous gagnons plaisir pour nous gagner ensemble avec nous, ambassadeur Luis G. Moreno. Ambassadeur Moreno, c'est un monde qui connaît Haïti est très très bien puisqu'il était travaille en Haïti comme assistant donc et adjoint chef mission dans Port-au-Prince pendant 2001 à 2004 mais il y a tout un parcours qui est vraiment extraordinaire que nous pas temps donc c'était là nous avons la possibilité pour dire qui est lié pour tout le monde qui est donc en bas 30 ans qui fait nos politique en Haïti. Ambassadeur Moreno, et bonsoir, comment vous êtes?
Bonsoir, pas plus mal, les amis, moi.
Dis-nous, depuis qu'il est ou quitté Haïti, depuis ou pas visité Haïti.
Well, to visit Haiti is a little bit complicated right now, as you know. And I had two times in Haiti. I was in Haiti in right after President Clinton was inaugurated. I was put in charge of the Refugee Coordination Center. We had offices in La Caille, in Port-au-Prince, and Cap-Haitien, La Caille, and people could go apply for asylum inside Haiti. And I was there for that, for what happened when Aristide left. I was lucky enough to be at the airport when President Aristide came back. It's one of the first people to meet him when he came off the plane. Before that, I had had many bad experiences with the attachés. I don't know if you remember when the ship uh, Harlan County was coming with the people from the United Nations. Uh, I was briefly taken hostage by the attachés at the port, and they said they would shoot me and my partner if the ship landed. And the ship did not land, and I kind of ran away and got out of there. And then the second time I was in Haiti, was you were mentioning, was when I was the chargé d'affaires and also the number two for Ambassador Foley when things got very bad, and Guy Philippe and his boys came in, and eventually I took President Aristide to the airport and and all that in February 2004. And I've been following the Haiti situation relatively closely. Monsieur Paul, those of us in the American diplomatic service who go to Haiti, we really start to love Haiti. Anytime in the past 40 years or so, you look at who's at the American embassy, the American diplomats, and you'll see that they're people who've been in Haiti one time before or even two times before, because Haiti is a place where you get to really love the people, you get to love the place, you really care about what goes on in Haiti. And that's why I returned to Haiti when they asked me to be the number two. And I speak to people in Haiti all the time. My heart bleeds for the situation and all over Haiti. It's really in a situation that's unprecedented. It's a very dangerous situation. I don't see how we can have elections in Haiti in November. I'm worried about what the American administration is going to do. President Biden didn't pay much attention, but at least there was movement. We were working to try to get the Canadians, to get the French, to get somebody to move forward with the peacekeeping force. And the Kenyans right now are just totally overwhelmed. If we want, I have some ideas about how we can do to help that, but the time is running short, and the situation is, as I've read what you've written, the time is very delicate, and the situation is very, very bad.
What is the difference between the Haiti you left and the one we have today?
Well, it's the Americans always come in. I was there 10 years apart, right? And both times when I left, American forces came in and fixed the situation. And then they leave. And then you're always putting band-aids. There's never, it's President Obama, President Bush, President Biden, President Trump, always putting band-aids and not doing anything that will kind of set some kind of infrastructure, some kind of political stability. The earthquake, the tragic earthquake, saw such an infusion of funds, and yet nothing was really built from that. And Haiti continues to be in this stagnated political situation. When I left both times in Haiti, there was hope. When I left in the mid 90s, and when I left in 2004, President Aristide had gone. You had President Boniface, and it looked like there was maybe hope for the future. But things did not work because the international community really has not had the political will to do something definitive in Haiti and to lay a solid foundation for the future. And because of all of Haiti's problems, nothing has advanced. And now we're in a situation where everything is simply coming apart.
Why do you think is that the international community seems that never learn or they refuse to learn anything about Haiti? You just mentioned the different US administration, they don't solve the problem. We don't expect they would solve the problem on their own, but they put band-aid on it when it could have been solved. Why do you think is that?
That's a complicated question, and it's not an easy answer. The first answer is that even though Haiti is 1 hour away from Miami on a jet, right? You get on a plane and you're there 1 hour. Unless there's a very high profile journalistic presence in Haiti, it kind of flies off the radar. Unless you read, Jacqueline Charles in the Miami Herald every day, unless they watch your TV show or read your articles, there's not a lot of focus. So it's kind of out of people's minds, number one. Number two, so many things have gone wrong that people are afraid in the international community that it will become a political liability. I think you saw that with the Biden administration. The Biden administration knew how bad the situation was going, and they did work in the United Nations, but they were trying to get other countries involved. As I mentioned, the French, the Canadians, but nobody wanted to own it. Nobody wanted to, CARICOM, they had the big meeting in Kingston, Jamaica. Prime Minister Holness promised A, B, and C, and it really didn't come forward. The American presence is very small. No one has the political will because they're afraid things will go wrong, and then they will have to pay a domestic political price for doing stuff in Haiti, because success is not guaranteed. And people realize its success is not guaranteed and that it becomes a political liability in your own country. I think that's part of the main problem.
In Haiti, people think that maybe this disregard for the Haiti situation has to do with Haiti's history, like first Black nation independent. Like people think we are paying some heavy price by the community, international community, and by international community, I mean the U.S., France, like the huge superpower like that. I'm not inviting you to speculate on that, but you think there is an historical part like this kind of disregard? It has to have some historical part.
Undoubtedly, there are historical aspects to this. The whole French thing with the wanting the pay the money that Haiti had to pay for France for so many years, which was really an obscenity. Uh, there is historical precedence, but I think it's kind of easy to use that as a kind of a crutch or an excuse that it's because of that. It plays a role, but I don't think it's the major role. I think the problem is that no one has wanted to take the responsibility to take the bull by the horns. The Americans do it for a short time and then they leave. The French take it for United Nations. They take it for a short time and leave. No one has been willing to invest the time, the effort, and the money to really get things done and to really stabilize the Haitian nation. I think that first and foremost, Monsieur Paul, that the most important thing is security, and without security, you cannot have the transitional government really have any type of success. There's no way you can prepare for elections in November. There's no way you can really stop. You have almost 6 million people that are very this close to starvation in Haiti. Uh, and the thing that Trump did a couple weeks ago with Vive Ensemble and Grand Grief and making them terrorist organizations. I think you made a brilliant point in your article last week where you said it almost makes delivery of humanitarian things very difficult because if you don't deal with these gangs at the port or at the airport or wherever it is, because you can get into trouble, then how are you going to deliver these things? The sad reality is that Vive Ensemble and Grand Grif and these other people are controlling it. So you're going to have to go through them to be able to get the people humanitarian assistance. But I think there was another reason why the United States government did that. And I'm sorry to criticize my former colleagues, but I think one of the real reasons that Vive Ensemble and Grand Grif were put on the terrorist list was because it gives an excuse to deport Haitians from the United States out of the United States, and heaven forbid, maybe even tell some, how are you going to deport people to Haiti when the airport is closed? But by calling people terrorists and being able to accuse people of being terrorists, like they do with people in El Salvador and Venezuelan migrants in the United States, you accuse them of being terrorists. And I think that's what's one of the reasons behind that. But yes, I think the international community, and specifically the United States, France, Canada, they get F as a grade, F for the efforts in Haiti, and they've been more uh, harm than good. And I'll have to be honest with you, I don't see that that's going to improve anytime soon.
So you mentioned the like designation of the gang in Haiti as we said, it might make the situation even worse. Now, for people in Haiti, there's no uh it could not be worse than that, like what they are living. But now we heard some report about people who used to have some good high-paying job here, like, but now they get to get rid of them because of national security things. They cannot keep their job. And as you know, beside the humanitarian aids, like the Haitian diaspora now, they are the backbones of the Haitian people. So you think there is a huge possibility with this designation, this situation might become even worse than like terrible than it is right now, humanitarian, I
I,
mean.
I think that's very possible for the reasons that you just described and that I had described before about people losing their job, about the inability to move humanitarian assistance forward because you could be accused of, dealing with terrorists. Uh, I think that if they actually manage to deport actual real criminals back into Haiti, that's not going to help the situation at all. So yeah, I think this can be. I think that the government has been thinking. There's a lot of rumors going around in Washington, Monsieur Paul, that they're going to hire people, American contractors who have a kind of a difficult reputation. People like Eric Prince, who was the former owner of Blackwater, who was accused of killing civilians in Iraq when they had a contract with the United States Department of Defense. They're looking at bringing in some pretty, I would describe as sketchy contractors, and they're going to pay them a whole lot of money. I think that's a mistake. I think the United States government, or I think the international community, or the United Nations, if they don't want to get people to put in troops, that they should be the ones hiring contractors. I know there are a lot of Haitian American veterans who are very well-trained military types who would be more than willing. You talk about the diaspora. Many people in the Haitian diaspora who served in the U.S. military who would happily go and advise the police with drones. Not the drones they're using now, which sometimes I hear from people in Cité Soleil. I spoke with some people in Cité Soleil the other day that sometimes the drones they're killing the wrong people sometimes. Uh, we need to put more professional people helping the police, but not paid by the transitional government, but paid directly by the United States. And you need more than anything else, you need helicopters. You need what we call a quick reaction force. That is a group that's based maybe in the airport or a secure area in Port-au-Prince that can react quickly and with force where there's a problem. And if you had enough, you're not talking about thousands and thousands. Look, I was there for two times when the American military came in. And the first time that the gang, the attachés, the Makuts, Frapp, whoever you want to talk about, threatened the American military, boom, the American military gave them a big bloody nose, and that was the end. Fini, that was the end of it. So what you need is the Kenyans don't have that capability. The Kenyans are not trained, nor do they have the resources, the manpower, or apparently the will to go in and give, you know, Jimmy Barbecue or whoever it is a punch in the nose that would result in something. So the approach that the transitional government is taking, and I know Leslie Voltaire when I know he just left, and Fritz Alphonse Jean took over. I knew Leslie Voltaire when he was Aristide's chief of staff, no, and he was one of the more competent guys that we talked to, but he could do nothing. I don't see how the new head of the uh, transitional council is going to be do much of anything else. And I'm very concerned about, people. There's no place in Haiti that's safe.
So,
It's not
so
just Port-au-Prince.
Ambassador, let me ask you, the Asian government, they must have known the repercussion of having some gang labeled as international terrorists. Why do you think they agreed with that? They even requested that the gang put on the terrorist list while they know there would be some huge consequences and people will be like there would be a risk of deportation for like innocent Haitian people in the US right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. The only thing I can think of, Monsieur Paul, is that they thought that there was a possibility if these people were designated as terrorists, that would be an incentive for the Americans themselves or for the international community to actually put security forces in Haiti. I wish they would have asked me because I would have told them that's a bad wish. That's not going to happen. Only negative things could probably happen. But I think that they were trying to convince themselves or to hope that this designation would result in concrete uh, movement of security forces from the international community into Haiti to try to restore order if these people were labeled terrorists, but they're mistaken. It's just the opposite.
Yeah, because there has been no country who has organization labeled as terrorist and the situation get improved. On top of my head, I don't know even in Iraq and Lebanese and Libya and I could the list go on, but it seems like they haven't learned like anything. But Donald Trump, as the US president right now, everybody knows he's not someone who like we love the Asian people, if we can say it like that. Why would like the US like would go from that route knowing that they would not be able to help the Asian people that much. If anything, they could like make it easier for them to send some Asian to Haiti.
Exactly. I think it was done strictly, say what you want about President Trump, but he's a showman. He is someone who understands how the media works. He does things for attention. And just like we declared Tren de Aragua, the Venezuelan gang, a terrorist organization, he also named different cartels from Mexico, the Gulf Cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel, I think Cartel de Nueva Generación as well, named them as terror organizations. That has that gives hope to some people that yes, the Americans are going to send in drones and Raptors and special forces into, into the highlands or the mountains of Mexico and go strike drug labs and fentanyl caches and kill kingpins. That's not going to happen, you know. And just Tren de Aragua, this is an interesting situation, Monsieur Paul. Uh, the United States government claimed that the Tren de Aragua was being directed by Maduro and by the Venezuelan government, and that's why they were designated terrorists. But in fact, U.S. intelligence agencies released their report and said that these organizations were almost certainly not organized or not under the direct control of Maduro and the Venezuelan regime. So these things, these designations, I disagree with you a little. In Iraq, I think it did have an effect with especially some of the Shia militias that were working with Iran who were targeting American soldiers and actually killing them. I think by designating them terrorists was did have a substantial effect. Uh, but that's totally different than what's going on in the Western Hemisphere. You can't compare what's going on in Afghanistan and Iraq, or what was going on in Afghanistan and Iraq, with what's going on in the Western Hemisphere. It's not comparable.
Do you think with this designation now, we should not be surprised if the U.S. administration like declared like the Asian the Enemies Act, Alien Enemies Act for Haitian, like they do for the Venezuelan, the Nicaraguan, and all that?
I think they may try that, yes. I think that's very possible. I think it's one of the reasons they did it. I think it's disingenuous. I think it's dangerous. I think they're going to have all sorts of judicial uh, actions to try to counter that. I mean, even the Supreme Court said basically that the United States had to facilitate the return of that guy who was mistakenly sent to El Salvador under the Enemies Act. They're even talking now. Stephen Miller, who is the deputy chief of staff of the White House, said that Trump is thinking about suspending the writ of habeas corpus. The right to due process that anyone can be arrested and thrown to jail for indefinite time without any charges against them. That's only been done during the Civil War, against the Ku Klux Klan at one point when they were out of control, and in World War II with Japanese who were put into concentration camps. So it's an extreme action, and there doesn't seem to be any limits so far in what they can try to do. It's kind of scary for the
Well,
United States.
I'm not trying to shift away the interview on the Trump administration, but they, at the same time, they are welcoming like Afrikaners, South Afrikaners, like the white South African. At the same time, they are putting like people from Haiti, Nicaragua, or other historically black countries. They are
We're we're
just
we're
putting.
we're, we're we're on the same page. Exactly. To say that this has nothing to do with white versus black is naive. Of course, it has everything to do with race. Uh, they're doing everything possible to expel brown and black people from the United States, and now they're bringing in just a couple hours ago they brought in 50 Afrikaners from South Africa who claimed that they were being persecuted when in fact the facts on the ground look very different, and they're welcome, and they sent a special plane for them, and they came in, and they're going to get everything paid for, everything that they accuse brown and black people of doing, they're doing for these white South Africans. It's really amazing.
So let's go back to Haiti right now. What do you think would be the proper behavior for the Haitian government if they would like to solve the problem? Because it seems like we are not going to have any help from any. like countries, from the international communities, if they would like to start solving the problem for good, where should they start based on your experience in Haiti?
I would try to use CARICOM, a CARICOM mechanism and an OAS mechanism for people solving it. I think you have to do a diplomatic offensive. I think you have to do outreach. You know, you had President Petro from Colombia visiting. I think he went to Cap-Haitien, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know why he went there. He didn't even seem to know why he was there. Um, but I think you need to engage. You know, I was the U.S. ambassador to Jamaica, and the Jamaican Defense Forces are highly skilled, very professional, highly respected. They are experts at humanitarian affairs, and they also have a lot of experience in dealing with gangs. If you could kind of put together, because the United States, the United Nations mandate, right, for the Kenyans, which has been ineffective, but it ends in September. And now there's reports that the United States isn't even going to pay the dues, their own dues for the United Nations. They're not going to support money for any more an increase in the Kenyan mission. So the United Nations is looking more and more difficult as an opportunity. But if Haiti can convince their neighbors, you know, the Jamaicans, the Dominicans aren't going to help, but I mean the people in the OAS or the people in CARICOM, if they can convince them to it's an interest of everybody to have a stable Haiti so that there's not a humanitarian disaster, so people aren't starving to death, so that disease doesn't run rampant. So
It's sorry to interrupt, but the problem is the CARICOM, they seems like they are waiting for the US. Even if like Haiti would contact them, they would just go right to the State Department to tell them what should or should not do. So it come back right to the US, like the State Department. So either way, we got like the US right in front of us.
all right, I think that the one the one card that Haiti and CARICOM may have with the United States is Secretary of State Rubio. He's someone who was very interested in foreign affairs. Remember, he was the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's someone who understands democracy. He's fought for democracy in Cuba, and he's fought for democracy in Venezuela. He's someone who understands what's at stake. So I would hope that people are reaching out. I know Ambassador Hankins is still in Port-au-Prince in the embassy, last I heard. He's a very professional guy, Hankins. He's a good friend of mine. I think you can't give up. You have to stay because what can Haiti do by itself? I mean, quite frankly, with the existing 8 members you have in the council, some of them who have very difficult backgrounds and have been accused of a lot of different things that are very negative. Um, you know, 8 people is too many. Maybe if you had three, maybe if you did something, you know, with the Montana group again, maybe if you turn things over to the Supreme Court, maybe it's time to start thinking completely out of the box. But I think that there has to be an organized campaign by Haiti, social media, television, radio, but you have to make sure that people, journalists, that international journalists come to Haiti, not report from remote control, you know, from TV, from far away. People in Haiti speaking to Haitians. There has to be a Haitian voice that needs to be heard. And I think that that's 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 the only chance that there's going to be. But you're
And,
right.
and, and the problem could not be solved with the 9 members of the Presidential Council, right, as it stands right now.
No, I don't see it being solved, no. The way this situation is now, no. And there's too much division, there's too much infighting, there's reports of corruption, there's and of course, if you don't have security, how can you plan for anything? How can you plan for elections in November if you can't even go out of the palace? Digicel is surrounded, right? The gangs are right outside Digicel. The airport's not open. The port has been taken over by the gangs. I mean, how can you have any type of election when you can't feed your own people? When you City Soleil at least is organized in a way that, pardon me, it's being run somehow. There seems to be some kind of infrastructure in City Soleil, even if it's infrastructure by bad guys, it's functioning. But so much of the city and so much of the country is not.
How scary do you think the Asian people should be with the idea that some mercenary, like US mercenary, would go fighting gang? And we know the history of those people fighting, like civil casualties could be very high. How scary do you think we should be about this idea?
I think you have to look very closely about who these mercenaries or they're called contractors these days, instead of mercenaries, but it's the same thing. I think you have to look at who it is. If it's somebody like Eric Prince, who has such a terrible record in Iraq and in other places, you should be scared. If it's some more very professional former veterans who Haitians, you have to have Haitian Americans, you have to have members of the diaspora, people who, when they're acting, can go on television, on your show and on other shows, on Leo Kiskai and everything, and talk to the Haitian people in Creole and explain. But yeah, you could probably be scared, yes.
And you think there's a possibility that we have a full-scale UN-backed mission in Haiti? Uh, I'm not talking about like 2,000, 3,000, like maybe, 10,000, the same way we got the minister. Uh, then is it something that is possible with the current situation right now?
I don't see it as possible in the current situation. I think it's one of the few things that is necessary. I wish it was possible. I hope the French and I hope the Canadians don't give up. I think the Americans are going to give up. As I told you, I think the Trump administration is thinking of cutting all support to the United Nations, and the acting ambassador to UN, Dorothy Shea, said, I think it was 4 or 5 days ago, that there's no mood in the United States to spend more money on the Kenyan mission. Said it just directly like that. So there's no more strong signal that you can give than that. I think that realistically, if that could happen, we could have a good chance again to try to at least secure Haiti enough so that you could have elections in November. But I think the possibility of a UN full mission is not looking good.
But do you think the gang, they are not operating on their own? There is like a list of UN section, like Asian politician, member of private sector, like very powerful, healthy people in Haiti, financing the gang themselves. And now you label the gang as terrorist organization, but nothing has been done, said for those people who are financing the gang, who put the situation right now. So you think by labeling the gang as foreign terrorist organization. So those who finance them should be on the like blacklist, so there should be some repercussion for them as well.
We all know that the gangs exist. Why do the gangs exist? Because of powerful people inside Haiti. That's why I mentioned the Jamaicans being a potential very good ally, because the situation of political alliances with gangs is something been that they've had to deal with for many decades, and they've dealt with it fairly well. So of course, they're politicians aligned, but also, Monsieur Paul, you cannot also avoid mentioning the drug trafficking portion of this. The drug traffickers have an interest in keeping Haiti disorganized, and security forces too busy to look for drugs. And Haiti is a transit point for both weapons coming in and drugs going out to the DR, to Puerto Rico, and to other places. That the drug traffickers have infused an incredible amount of money that these gangs have used to supply weapons. Back 20 years ago when I was in Haiti for the problems with the attachés and FRAP and Guy Philippe and they were relatively ragtag. The weapons they had were old, didn't have very good stuff, old stuff, used stuff, stuff that was coming from Central America, from the wars that were going on in Central America. Not now. If you look on when I look on YouTube or when I speak to my friends in Haiti, these weapons are brand new. They are sophisticated. They take training to use, and they are very, very lethal. These weapons are sophisticated. They take training, and I'm very afraid that they may get even heavier weapons that what we call surface to air missile type weapons that are very expensive but can be bought on a black market that could bring down a helicopter, that could bring down a commercial airliner, that could kill hundreds of people. Seeing a weapon like that in the hands of these people is terrifying, and everyone should be terrified of that because they're just short of that because they have what we call crew-served weapons, high caliber sniper rifles, the Spencers that are 50 caliber. They have crew-mounted machine guns. They have all sorts of things. They don't have armored vehicles. I understand from speaking to my friends in Haiti that the one thing the gangs are really petrified of is heavily armored vehicles. They call them tanks, but they refer to any type of armored personnel carriers or anything like that. That the gangs kind of freaks them out. These armored personnel carriers and tanks. So whatever security force would come in would have to bring some heavily armored vehicles like that. But yeah, it's a very scary situation, very, very scary situation. And Haiti is in the process of becoming a narco state, a failed nation, a narco state, or whatever you want to call it, a gang state. And the people who pay the price, as always, are the Haitian people.
So, how do you think, uh, why is it the Dominican Republic, President Luis Abinader, he was basically the first to ask at the UN, like the gang label foreign terrorist organization, why would they want something like that? There is a common idea in Haiti. The Dominican Republic wanted to invade Haiti so they can have some leeway right now because whenever a country has some foreign terrorist organization, it gives the neighbors country the right to fight them. Uh, do you think there is a similar situation can be possible in Haiti with the Dominican Republic now trying to chase every single Haitian from their country now?
Well, sure. Just the way that the Americans are using it to classify people as terrorists and enemies of the state and what have you. The Dominicans have many Dominican politicians have always wanted to expel as many Haitians as they could, and this is certainly going to give them an excuse to do so. So I have no doubt that Dominican politicians will be using that. Yes.
Have you ever been called since you left to advise in any capacity whatsoever to the State Department and about the situation in Haiti, given your experience?
Without going to too much detail, it was advising some special units in the U.S. Army who were going to Haiti to as part of this mission. Actually, there's a small group of Americans that are there that stationed at the airport, and I helped mentor and train those guys and prepare them for their deployment to Haiti. So yes, I did, and I've also helped, spoken publicly. I gave a talk at Harvard a couple of years ago, and I speak to the media. I speak to the Miami Herald all the time, and I love Haiti. I mean, I love the Haitian people, and it's important for me. So I have a lot of Haitian friends. I went and visited. I was in Miami with some members of the Haitian diaspora not too long ago. So yeah, I've kept my finger involved a little bit.
In the Haitian political area, like were very well known as someone who like very experienced in Haiti, but also someone who helped our state Mercenaries. Well, can you tell us about this experience in 2004?
Sure. I was wondering how long it would take you to ask me about that. Uh, I knew President Aristide back. when he came back from exile, I was in a position, first time I was in Haiti, where I was working with the boat people and for Haitians who were applying for political asylum. And we would go and monitor the ships that would bring back the Haitian boat people to Port-au-Prince. And the thing that we would protect them from the attachés. We'd protect them from the FRAP and we'd protect them from the military guys. And I would go on board these Coast Guard ships and I would, with my interpreter, and we'd say, is anyone afraid to come back for political reasons that you be part, blah, 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 blah. And I had to go fight with the military guys and the attachés there. And one thing I did was I had a picture of President Aristide on the back of my embassy ID card. So when I was talking, I'd always move my ID in the card so they could see a picture of President Aristide. It used to make them go crazy. And so when President Aristide came back from exile, I was one of the first people to greet him. And we developed a relationship over the years. He speaks Spanish, English, French, Creole, Hebrew, and Latin. And he always spoke to me in Spanish. And when I came back 10 years later, I was one of the guys who would speak to him the most. And I always thought that President Aristide, when he was first elected, that was someone who really cared about the Haitian people. He cared about uh, the poor people. He cared about rights. He cared about all these things. And he suffered the military coup with General Cedras. And when he came back, he was sort of changed. And I think that he saw that without, Duvalier had the Makuts, Cedras had the attachés and FRAP and all that, that he kind of saw that without the police, the army was gone. And we did that. We made sure the army was gone. The police was not enough, and he was going to need support. And so that's when the Chimère, he brought in the whole Chimère movement, and they got rapidly out of control. And there also was a lot of corruption in the second Aristide term, drug trafficking, even people in the presidential guard. I could look up the names if you want, but we actually had film of Colombian planes coming in and the drugs being unloaded by presidential guard vehicles. And so it was a major problem. We tried to negotiate in the end to form kind of a transitional government in a good way. And Aristide would eventually leave, but he refused to leave. And until the end, when he called us and he said, okay, I want to leave. And I was in the embassy. I was sleeping in the embassy. And Ambassador Foley was up in the ambassador's house up on the hill in Pétionville. And Washington told us, Secretary Powell said, if we get Aristide out of there, uh, he will have to resign. And I said, well, I'll go and speak to him because, he knows me and I think he trusts me to a certain degree. But I had to find Guy Philippe, and I found a phone number that was given to me, and I spoke to Guy Philippe, and I told him to stay out of Port-au-Prince for that evening. Uh, it disgusted me to have to speak to him because I still find him one of the most vile, evil people I ever had to deal with, and I've dealt with a lot of bad people. Uh, and then we went, and I got President Aristide. They told me to make sure that I got his resignation letter before we take him to the airport. I did not do that. I went to the door, I introduced myself. I had 5 or 6 guys with me, security guys. And he said he was ready. He was dressed. He's with Mildred. He had a little suitcase packed. And he was polite, but not, warm to me. I mean, he knew why I was there. And it's funny when we left I asked him for the letter, and he said, "I'll give you the airport. I'll give the letter to you in the airport. You know that my word is my bond. If I say I'm going to give you the letter, I'm going to give you the letter." I said, "Okay," even though I was supposed to get the letter before. And when we left, he had the white bodyguards from the Steel Foundation. They stayed with us, but the whole heavy weapons equipment of that squad from the police, when we came out of his compound, they all went to the right, and we went to the left towards the airport. And for a long time, I didn't understand why that was. And it was because he told them that we were going to the palace for a press conference. He did not tell his own guys the truth. And so I said, okay. We went to the airport and we waited, we chatted. Mildred did not say one word. I chatted a little bit with President Aristide, and I told him, I said, in Spanish, as we always did, I said, how ironic, Mr. President, I was one of the first people to receive you when you came back from exile. I was always a big supporter of yours, and here I am. I'm going to be the last American to say goodbye to you when you leave this time. I said, don't, that pains me, believe it or not, pains me. And he said, the only thing he said to me in English, I think ever in his life, he said, don't worry, Moreno, sometimes life is like that. And then they told me that, hey, the plane was coming. And I said, Mr. President, I really need that letter now. I mean, we need your side of the bargain. And his wife had the letter in her purse, I believe, gave it to me. I gave it to an officer who spoke excellent Creole and could read excellent Creole. Said it's wanted to prevent bloodshed. We put him on a plane, and he went with his bodyguards. Although they had to leave all their weapons behind, and then the plane doesn't leave, and it's the sun is starting to come up, and the plane still is not leaving. And so I call, I say, hey, what's going on with this plane? I mean, lights coming up, and people are going to be very upset that he's leaving, and I'm here with like five or six guys that we're sitting ducks here. What's the story? And I said, well, the deal that we had with the South African government and President Zuma has is no longer in effect. President Zuma will not be taking President Aristide, and he has to go somewhere else. And until we have that somewhere else, the plane is not leaving. And I said, well, that's highly inconvenient, highly dangerous, When they said you have to leave, I said, I'm not leaving until the plane leaves. That's not right. Eventually, the plane left, and they did not tell President Aristide they were not going to South Africa. So, of course, he was in shock when he landed in the Central African Republic, expecting to be in South Africa. So I could understand why he was that upset. In the meantime, I had gone to the palace to grab some documents that he had asked me to take from his office, and that's when Guy Philippe came. He tried to get into the palace. I told him no. He threatened us, and I said, well, if you're going to kill, these five American officers here, go right ahead. But there are 5,000 Marines right offshore. So, Mr. Philippe, I would recommend that you do not do that. And he did not come into the palace. And a whole bunch of other things happened. But I've always told the truth about this. I did not kidnap President Aristide. I did not arrange to have him kidnapped. It was me and five guys. And I think he has said that it was he never accused me personally, which I really appreciate. He never said, some people did say that I personally did things that I didn't do, but he has never said that I personally did A, B, or C. And I truly appreciate that because he told the truth about that. But that's the story, Mr. Paul. And
So
I've
you
told
never
that
been, yeah, you never been kidnapped as he said. You was kidnapped by the US or you was forced to leave. He decided to live on his own term.
he totally was leaving on his own. He called us. He called Ambassador Foley that night, and I was in my shorts, pajamas, sleeping on the floor of the embassy. I was playing a computer game when I got the call and said, President Aristide just called me. He's going to take us. He's going to leave. He's going to take us off on our offer to get him out. We're arranging it now. And I said, well, if anyone's going to go take him to the airport, it should be me because I know him. And we have a history, we have a relationship. And that's what happened.
Have you ever spoke with him after that?
No, I would actually enjoy, well, I don't know if I would enjoy, it would depend how the conversation went, right? But I certainly wouldn't have a problem speaking with him. No.
So when they get rid of the your Asian army, it was on I've said request. He busted about that on many times. Do you think it was a mistake, like not to have the army today that would make the situation even better if we had it?
That's a very tough question for me because it was kind of my plan, and I carried out the operation to do the demobilization and re-education. I went with U.S. Special Forces to every caserne in Haiti with a list of people who would be paid the rest of their salaries and just let go. There was this, and be referred to an educational program to learn a trade. There was a list of people who we were going to offer a contract with the interim security force, and there was also a list of people that we would arrest for crimes, human rights violations, et cetera. So I personally did that, never concerned. I thought at the time that it was the good thing to do because of the coups that the army had done. So I thought it was a good thing. Now looking back, in retrospect and Monday morning quarterback, as they say here in the United States, I think maybe it was not the greatest idea. No.
So,
I did
so
at the time, though. I've got to be honest. I thought it was a very good idea at the time.
yeah. So what do you think you would have done differently in Haiti right now? Should you present the same situation?
I think you have to spend a lot of money and you have to reorganize the military. You have to do, I also have been blessed by just being at very interesting places at very interesting times. I was the director of narcotics assistance to the Colombian government when we started Plan Colombia. And we had 1.5, almost $2 billion a year when we started off. And we reformed the Army to a great extent with human rights courses, specialized equipment, specialized training. We set up courthouses in contested areas with the guerrillas, hospitals, schools. We had USAID completely redo our foreign assistance in these jungle areas where they grew, coca to make cocaine and so on. So it was just a top to bottom reorganization of everything. You need a plan Haiti. Like we had a plan Colombia, you really need a plan Haiti, but it's going to cost several $billion a year. It's going to be a hell of an effort. It's going to require international cooperation. And quite honestly, I just don't see that. I
What
don't
do you
see it
think
in the cards.
what do you think would make the international community move a little bit toward like this move about Haiti right now? What would it take like the Asian people, Asian politicians?
You want me to be honest?
Sure.
I think it would require an incredible humanitarian tragedy. I think it would require something that grabbed the world's attention by the shirt and said, like the earthquake did. We did not take advantage of the opportunities that the earthquake. We just threw money at it, and we didn't really do anything to make it over success over the medium or the long term. So we need something so earth-shattering, so terrible, because obviously having gangs rule the country, having lost 1,600 civilians in the first 3 months of 2025 is not enough. That's not enough to grab the world's attention. So you need some almost unspeakable, terrible things to happen to get the international community to be in a situation where they cannot help but be involved in doing a plan Haiti, a plan rescue Haiti. That's what's needed.
So you mentioned talking to Guy Philippe and Haiti. Guy Philippe, like he said that he cooperated with the US and he kind of like working for you guys to oust Aristide. And now like you
That's
told
that is such a lie. That is a lie. He's a liar. He's a cheat. He's a drug trafficker. He's a money launderer, and I think it's pretty obvious that he's a murderer, rapist, and human rights violator. He has said that I'm crazy. He says he doesn't even know me. Oh, he knows me. He knows me very well, and I'm not crazy. He did not cooperate with the United States at all. And I know because I was the guy who had the ugly job of having to deal with him.
so there was no such cooperation, no talking like what Guy Philippe going to work for you guys to do any
Abs I deny that 110%. unless somebody was fooling me, Ambassador Foley and everyone else.
So now that we have this kind of situation in Haiti right now, if you were called to serve in Haiti as ambassador, would you do that? Like,
That's not going to happen, Monsieur Paul. I'm not. I don't think. I don't think Donald Trump knows who I am, thank goodness. But I would not work for Donald Trump. No.
why is that?
I think I don't like what he represents. I don't like what he's done with the Haitians, with the Latin population in the United States, with his talk about suspending habeas corpus, the what I see as corruption. I just would, if an NGO wanted me to do something, or the United Nations wanted me to do something, or CARICOM or the OAS, I'd be happy to do so. But for the United States government as it now stands, no.
So what do you think what should be the behavior of like Asian civil society and the diaspora right now? They can play a role, even though there's a very hostile situation right now. Everybody in here, they are afraid. Even if you have green card, you are a U.S. citizen. What should they do right now to, advocate for Haiti? Where would they go, like make the situation a little bit less painful for the Asian
You
people?
you need some charismatic leadership. You need somebody to be a rallying point. You need someone to be like President Aristide was in, 30 years ago. You need someone who has that appeal, who's articulate, who can speak to people in the United States, maybe it's a politician, maybe it's a media personality, maybe it's a movie star, maybe it's a recording artist, maybe it's somebody, but you need someone to unify because there's just so much discord and so much, everyone is all over the place. In Haiti, civil society, you know how fractured civil society is in Haiti. Uh, but if you could unite it in Haiti, and you could unite it in diaspora, and you can bring pressure to bear. And as I said, I keep repeating it, bring media attention. You need media attention. You need to focus. You need to put Haiti in the
Yeah, but
headlines.
Ambassador, I heard you say that many times, but how do you bring media attention? We got last time we got about Twitter, 300 people like massacre. We never had any news like CNN, Fox News, all the like mainstream media. It seems like as much as the US government don't care, they don't really care about what's going on to Haiti neither.
Well, that's why I said, sadly, you need maybe terrible things to happen to get that attention. Some natural disaster, something that you can't deny the Haitian people's humanity, because I think so much of the media and the politicians just ignore the humanity of the Haitian people. I think that has to be brought to attention. How do you do it? I can only think of that, getting the media involved and having some charismatic, people have like giant concerts to raise Haitian awareness, Americans' awareness of this. You need something, and
You
unfortunately,
think someone like Wyclef Jean could do that, could play that role?
yes, I think that would be a good choice. I think he's recognized. I think he's got the charisma, but he would need a lot of help. But yes, I think he would be someone like him would be a good choice.
So, without those huge step, where do you see Haiti in the next 10 years now?
I'm afraid to say, to be honest, it just looks so. I hate to be pessimistic, but I think at least for the next 4 years under the Trump administration, because let's face it, let's be honest, it has to be the Americans. The Americans have to. Tried kind of halfway by going through the back door and trying to get the United Nations and other people to do it with. He didn't want to take it by the horns. Trump certainly is not going to take it by the horns or even the back door. So, for the next 4 years, I think we're in a lot of trouble. And the NGOs and the World Food for Peace initiatives and some other things are going to. I know Cindy McCain has been to City Soleil and she understands what's at stake, but we need to keep at least the lifeline for the humanitarian assistance to keep coming in.
And we don't have the USAID right now anymore, the same way we used to have. At least they had some kind of contribution, and there's no such things right now.
That's disastrous. That's Elon Musk and his Doge cuts, which were done without really thinking, just took a hatchet and broke everything. And I know personally, not only food assistance, but PEPFAR in the fight against AIDS and HIV. They did such wonderful work in Haiti. I know people whose lives were saved by that program, by the PEPFAR program. And it's
So,
really a shame and it's a sin that all these programs have been cut.
and lastly, how do you think about what do you think about the debate for the reparation right now? France, they put a commission, they form like a task force, something like that, to analyze it. You think there's a remote possibility that France might accept to give the money back, maybe in form of, building infrastructure, universities, or security, things like that?
I hope there's a possibility. I think Emmanuel Macron has shown himself to be probably the leader of the West right now because the United States has abdicated that role. You see what he's doing with Ukraine, the way he stepped up. He's being a world leader. I would think that's a good place to focus also these media and high profile lobbying groups is with the French. I think there is a chance with Macron that maybe that will result in something and getting the reparations back. I think it's true. The French government stole so many millions from Haiti for so many years. It's just outrageous, and it would only be just for France to give that back.
So what do you think, Ambassador, like our people who are watching right now, they should know? I did not ask for this interview, and then you think it's absolutely important that we know.
I think that despite my pessimistic view, knowing the Haitian people and knowing how noble they are and knowing how proud they are and knowing how capable they are and how hardworking they are and how industrious they are and how good they are, that they will never give up. And we should never give up either. And we should continue to try to support the Haitian people as much as we can.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so very much.
No, no, it was a pleasure for me. Thank you so much.
Hopefully, you will receive this phone call from Aristide and you will have the conversation with him.
You have my number. You could pass it to him.
I would be glad to pass him the email. I don't have the number, but if he asks me for the email, I would be glad to give it to him.
Okay.
Thanks again, Ambassador. Thank you so much.
Merci en pile.